The Warborn's lips curled into a faint smile. "Interesting," he muttered, his voice deep and commanding. "Prepare the fleet. Let's see who dares to call for help in our domain." His soldiers saluted, their movements sharp and disciplined. The ships began to hum as their engines powered up, the surrounding darkness pulsing with energy. The Warborn's eyes gleamed with curiosity. What would he find on Vera? A trap? A test? Or perhaps a challenge? Whatever it was, he was ready. And soon, the galaxy would remember why Warborns were feared above all. The fleet moved forward, vanishing into the abyss of space, heading toward the tiny world that had dared to send out a distress call. Vera's cry for help had been heard, but the ones who answered were not saviors. They were the deadliest force in the galaxy, and they were coming. The skies above Xandria still burned, thick smoke rising from the ruined city. The Zerath forces marched through the wreckage, their metallic boots crushing debris underfoot. Their crimson eyes scanned the ruins, hunting for any survivors to capture or eliminate. Elder Rias and Alara hid within the shadows of a collapsed building, their hearts pounding. Rias held Alara close, his trembling hands covering her mouth to keep her silent. One wrong move, one sound, and they would be discovered. Above them, Zerath warships loomed like vultures, their cannons still glowing hot from the recent bombardment. Their sheer number darkened the sky, blocking out the sun. What was once a thriving city had become a battlefield, and hope felt like a distant memory. Then, a strange sound echoed through the atmosphere, a low, powerful hum that vibrated through the ground. The Zerath turned their gaze skyward, their red eyes narrowing in suspicion. From the upper edges of the atmosphere, colossal shadows emerged, descending with terrifying speed. These were no ordinary ships. Dark, jagged, and battle-worn, their hulls bore the scars of countless wars. A strange energy filled the air, making the ground tremble beneath them. Rias's breath caught in his throat. These were not ships of the Galactic Accord. They were something else, something far more dangerous. The Zerath commanders barked orders, their war machines shifting position to face the new arrivals. Beams of energy tore through the sky, but they did nothing, merely vanishing against the approaching vessels. The Warborn fleet moved with terrifying precision, weaving effortlessly through the barrage of attacks. One Zerath officer clenched his jaw in frustration. "Who are they? Which empire do they belong to?" His second-in-command shook his head, fear flashing in his red eyes. I don't know, sir. Our database has no record of such ships." The first ship landed with a thunderous impact, its colossal landing struts embedding deep into the scorched earth. The shockwave rattled through the ruins, sending cracks through the remaining structures. The Zerath staggered, struggling to keep their footing. The ship's hull hissed as a ramp extended, its metal striking the ground with an ominous thud. Silence followed. Even the Zerath hesitated, their weapons locked onto the opening. Then they appeared. Towering figures clad in dark, battle-worn armor, their visors glowing like embers in the smoky air. They moved with calm, unshaken confidence, unfazed by the dozens of weapons aimed at them. The Zerath commander's hand shook as he activated his communicator. "All units, open fire. Do not let them advance." A storm of energy blasts erupted toward the Warborns, but in an instant, they moved. Faster than anything the Zerath had ever seen. A blur of motion, too fast to track. One Warborn raised his arm, and a pulse of crackling energy exploded from his gauntlet, disintegrating an entire squad in a single blast. Another leaped into the air, his blade slicing through enemy machines like paper. Alara clutched Rias's arm in horror as the Warborns tore through the Zerath forces with ruthless efficiency. Who are they?" she whispered. Rias's voice trembled. "I don't know. But they are not part of the Galactic Accord. There's something else, something far more dangerous." The Warborns pressed forward, their numbers growing as more ships touched down. The Zerath ranks wavered, their confidence shattered. They had never faced an enemy like this before, an enemy that did not hesitate, did not fear, did not spare. The Zerath commander stumbled back, his crimson eyes wide with panic. "Retreat! We cannot fight them!" His troops obeyed, scrambling for their remaining warships. But the Warborns were relentless. They pursued their fleeing enemies, cutting them down with merciless precision. Their weapons crackled with lethal energy, their armor deflecting every desperate counterattack. Above, Zirath warships tried to escape the battlefield, only to be shot down within seconds. The Warborns' anti-air batteries roared to life, reducing the retreating vessels to blazing wrecks. Explosions filled the sky, raining fiery debris over the ruins of Xandria. Within minutes, the Zerath fleet was no more. Their forces annihilated. Elder Rias and Alara stood frozen amidst the devastation, their minds struggling to grasp what had just occurred. The battle was over, but the nightmare was far from ending. The Warborn stood amidst the wreckage, their visors glowing in the darkness, turning toward the last remaining survivors. They advanced, their footsteps echoing ominously through the broken streets. Rias's heart sank. The Zerath were defeated. But now, they were at the mercy of a new force, one even more terrifying. Alara's voice trembled. They saved us. But why do I feel more afraid than before? Rias didn't answer. His eyes remained locked on the Warborns, watching them with a mixture of awe and fear. They had answered the distress call. But were they saviors or conquerors? The streets of Xandria lay silent now, filled only with the smoldering ruins and the looming shadows of the towering Warborns. Elder Rias's pulse pounded as he watched them scan the wreckage. They did not speak, did not show emotion. They moved like ghosts, silent, unstoppable. Alara clung to his arm, her voice barely a whisper. "Grandfather, what are they?" Rias swallowed hard. I don't know, child. But they are more powerful than anything I've ever seen." Suddenly, one of the Warborns turned. Its visor locked onto their hiding place. Rias's breath caught in his throat. He pulled Alara back, pressing his body against the crumbling wall. But it was too late. The Warborn had seen them. The armored figure approached, its footsteps slow, deliberate. The ground trembled with each step. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The Warborn stopped before them, towering over Rias and Alara. Then, with mechanical precision, he reached up and removed his helmet. Rias's eyes widened in shock. Beneath the battle-worn armor was a face like his own. Humanoid, but ancient, powerful. The Warborn's deep voice resonated. "You are Vayrans, survivors of this attack." Rias' throat went dry. Yes. We are the last of our people. The Zerath. They destroyed everything." The Warborn's gaze remained cold. "We received your distress call. We answered." Alara's eyes lit up with hope. "You saved us." The Warborn looked down at her, his gaze softening, just slightly. "We do not save. We eliminate threats." Rias felt a chill crawl down his spine. These were no peacekeepers. They were something else, something far more terrifying. Who are you?" he whispered. The Warborn's eyes gleamed coldly. "We are the descendants of Terra. We are the Warborn. We are very real, Elder, and we have watched this galaxy for a long time, waiting, observing, until the right moment to act." Alara gazed up at him, wonder filling her eyes. "You came to help us. You defeated the Zerath. Does that mean you are our allies?" The Warborn's expression remained cold and unreadable. "Allies? We do not entangle ourselves in the politics of the weak. Your distress call indicated a threat. We neutralized that threat, nothing more." Rias's heart sank. They were not saviors. They were hunters. Predators who eradicated anything that disturbed their domain. He stared into the warrior's eyes and saw the truth. These beings protected their own, and nothing beyond that. "What will you do now?" Rias asked, his voice unsteady. The Warborn glanced at the ruins, his eyes calculating. "We will leave. Your world is safe, for now. But if another threat emerges, we will return. And if you become a threat," his voice hardened, "we will destroy you as well." Alara's face went pale. But we are not a threat. We are just trying to survive. The warrior's gaze softened for just a moment. Then survive. And do not summon us again, unless you are prepared to face the consequences. With that, he turned away, his armor gleaming under the scorched sky. The other warborns followed, their movements perfectly synchronized. Silent as shadows, they returned to their ships, vanishing into the metallic corridors of their massive vessels. Rias watched as the colossal warships lifted off, disappearing into the heavens. The deep hum of their engines vibrated through the ruins, a lingering reminder of the unimaginable power they wielded. As the last ship vanished beyond the sky, Alara turned to her grandfather, fear and confusion in her eyes. Grandfather, were they heroes or monsters? News of the Zerath's annihilation spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Every council chamber echoed with whispers. Every diplomat's face paled with fear. The Zerath had been among the most feared warlords in the galaxy, yet they had been wiped out in mere moments. In the grand hall of the Interstellar Concord, leaders from every star system gathered. The air was thick with tension. Voices were hushed. Faces were grim. They had all seen the footage, the dark ships appearing from nowhere, moving with terrifying precision, unleashing a force beyond anything known. Chancellor Valen stood at the center, his ceremonial robes flowing as he raised his hand for silence. This cannot be possible, he said, his voice trembling. Who could destroy the Zerath so easily? A hologram flickered to life, replaying the battle. The alien council members flinched as they watched the warborn ships dismantle the Zerath fleet without hesitation, without mercy. Ambassador Grin, his scaled skin shimmering with unease, spoke up. These beings, they are like shadows. They appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. Our sensors could not track them. Our communications were jammed. It was as if they were ghosts. A murmur of fear rippled through the chamber. Ghosts? Impossible. And yet, the footage did not lie. General Tovak, his tusks gleaming under the dim lights, clenched his fists. We must find out who they are. No fleet possesses such power, such precision. They are a threat to us all. Counselor Lena spoke, her voice shaky. There are rumors, whispers from survivors on Vera. They say these beings call themselves warborns. A collective gasp filled the chamber. The words sent chills down every spine. Legends spoke of a cursed race from a brutal world, a planet where only the strongest survived, a world called Terra. Chancellor Valen's voice barely rose above a whisper. Earth, that primitive rock on the edge of the galaxy? Impossible. They were nothing more than savages, barely capable of space travel. They were weak. Ambassador Grin shook his head, fear widening his eyes. But the rumors say they have been watching, waiting, hidden in the shadows. And now, they have returned. Silence fell over the chamber, the air heavy with dread. If the warborns were real, if they truly possessed such power, then no one in the galaxy was safe. General Tovak slammed his fist onto the table. We must prepare. If they are truly warborns, then they are the greatest threat we have ever faced. We cannot allow them to destroy us as they did the Zerath. Chancellor Valen's face turned pale. But how? He whispered. How do we fight beings who appear and disappear at will? Who can dismantle entire fleets without warning? No one had an answer. Fear was tangible, thick in the air. They were the rulers of the galaxy, the most powerful forces in existence. And yet, against these ghosts from a forgotten world, they were powerless. As the council members argued, Counselor Lena sat in silence, her heart pounding. She remembered the stories her grandmother had told her. Old tales of a world where gravity was crushing, where predators lurked in every shadow, where even the air was a challenge to breathe. A world that forged warriors unlike any other. Earth, she whispered, her voice trembling. They come from Earth. The room fell silent. All eyes turned toward her. Chancellor Valen's face twisted in anger. Nonsense. Earth is a myth. A primitive world that could never— They survived, Lena interrupted, her voice steady. They survived that cursed world, and they became stronger because of it. The legends were true. They are warborns, and they have returned. A cold realization settled over the chamber. The warborns were real, and they were powerful beyond imagination. Chancellor Valen's hands trembled as he gripped the podium. We must stop them before they destroy us all. But deep down, he knew the truth. They had awakened a force beyond their control. The galaxy had called for help, and the deadliest beings had answered. Panic spread through the interstellar concord. Stories of shadows that destroyed fleets, of ships that moved like phantoms, of warriors who fought with unstoppable ferocity, filled every transmission. In the war chamber, generals and leaders huddled around a vast holographic map. Planets blinked in red, marking each world that had sent a distress call. Each was now silent, purged of Zerath presence. General Tovak clenched his fists. We cannot wait any longer. These warborns are a threat to every race in this galaxy. We must strike first, before they reach our homeworlds. Admiral Zyro, his mechanical limbs whirring, nodded grimly. Their technology is beyond anything we have encountered. If we hesitate, they will annihilate us just as they did the Zerath. Chancellor Valen exhaled shakily. But if they are truly the ones from the legends, how do we fight them? Counselor Lena hesitated. There is an ancient archive hidden in the ruins of the first ones. It is said to hold knowledge of every race that has ever existed, including the warborns. General Tovak's eyes gleamed with hope. If it holds information about them, we may find a way to defeat them. Chancellor Valen straightened, resolve hardening. Then we must retrieve it, and we will not wait for them to strike. We will bring the fight to them. The galactic dominion does not bow to shadows. Yet Counselor Saris looked away, her heart heavy with dread. She remembered the stories, the legends of warriors who defied death itself, born from a world of nightmares. Could they truly defeat such beings? As the generals plotted their attack, she whispered under her breath, "We may have awakened a force we cannot stop." The room was filled with the hum of strategy and battle plans, but beneath it all, a chilling fear lingered. The galactic dominion was preparing for war, but they were facing legends, monsters who had already proven their power. The dominion's fleets moved swiftly, their warships slicing through the void of space with deadly precision. Led by General Kale and Admiral Varric, they traveled toward the coordinates provided by the ancient archives. It was there, hidden among the ruins of the primordials, that they hoped to find the key to defeating the warborns. At the forefront of the armada was the dreadnought Sovereign, its massive hull bristling with weapons powerful enough to destroy entire planets. Inside the command center, holographic maps flickered with data, outlining the ruins and the surrounding sectors. General Kale's gaze was locked onto the display, his face set with determination. "They are out there," he growled, "hiding in the shadows like the predators they are. But this time, we are the hunters." Admiral Varric's metallic limbs gleamed under the cold lights as he activated the scanners. "No sign of them yet, but they are masters of stealth. We must be ready for anything." The fleet moved closer to the ruins, massive ancient structures drifting eerily in space, their broken forms casting long shadows. The air was tense, the soldiers on edge. They all knew the stories, the legends of the warborns who could turn invisible, who struck without warning. Inside the ruins, the strike team advanced cautiously. Captain Ryden led the squad, his weapon ready, his eyes scanning every corner. The ancient halls were dark and cold, whispering with echoes of a long-forgotten past. Strange symbols pulsed faintly on the walls, their meanings lost to time. Then, his communicator crackled to life. "Captain Ryden, do you read? We found something. You need to see this." He hurried to the chamber, his heart pounding. As he stepped inside, his breath caught. Before him, a massive holographic projection flickered to life. A planet, a world of blue oceans and green lands, shrouded in swirling white clouds. "It's Terra," one of his team members whispered, their voice trembling. The hologram shifted, Scenes unfolded. Beasts hunting in the wild, storms ravaging landscapes, towering mountains and unrelenting deserts. And then, humans. Fighting, surviving, battling against monsters, against nature itself. Again and again, they faced death. Again and again, they overcame it. Captain Ryden felt a chill crawl up his spine. They were forged by this world, he murmured, shaped by nightmares and chaos. The hologram shifted once more. Now it displayed ships, colossal, sleek, and deadly. Human vessels. They clashed with alien fleets, their movements ruthless, their attacks precise, tearing through enemies like a force of nature. These were no myths. The Warborns were warriors, conquerors, spawned from the deadliest world in the galaxy. Then, the ground shook. Alarms blared. The strike team's lights flickered, revealing figures standing at the edges of the room. Dark silhouettes, motionless, silent. "Contact! We've got hostiles!" one of the soldiers shouted, raising his weapon. But the shadows did not attack. They stepped forward, and the soldiers saw their faces. Human. Expressionless. Cold. Their eyes glowed with an eerie light, their armor sleek, advanced, far beyond anything the Dominion possessed. Captain Ryden's heart pounded. They had been waiting, watching, the entire time. One of the Warborns stepped forward, his voice reverberating through the chamber. "You came seeking answers, and now you have found them. But knowledge comes with a price." Before anyone could react, the room erupted into chaos. The Warborns moved, faster than the eye could follow. Their weapons ignited, their attacks precise. One by one the Dominion soldiers fell. Captain Ryden fired desperately, his shots wild, unfocused. It didn't matter. They were unstoppable. Their movements were fluid, like a dance through destruction. He stumbled backward, trembling. "What? What are you?" The Warborn leader gazed at him. His face was emotionless, merciless. "We are the children of Terra. The survivors of Hell." With a swift motion, the warrior struck, and everything went dark. On the Sovereign, the sensors went wild. Alarms shrieked. Admiral Varric watched in horror as the ruins lit up with energy signatures. "The Warborns are attacking." "Raise the shields! All ships! Prepare for battle!" General Kale bellowed. The shadows moved. From the darkness of space, ships emerged, sleek, terrifying in design. They fired without hesitation. Their weapons ripped through the Dominion fleet with devastating force. Admiral Varric's metallic limbs trembled as he watched ship after ship explode into nothingness. They're monsters. How can they be this powerful? General Kale's face was pale, his eyes wide with fear. "They are Warborns. And we have awakened their wrath." The Warborn fleet moved like phantoms, slipping through the Dominion's defenses. Their strikes were flawless, their coordination perfect. They were not just soldiers, they were hunters. And the Galactic Dominion was their prey. The battlefield was chaos. Explosions rippled through space as Dominion warships crumbled under the relentless assault. Once, the Dominion's fleet had symbolized strength, absolute power. Now, it was burning wreckage. The Warborn's ships danced through the debris, weaving effortlessly between the ruins of their enemies. On the Sovereign's bridge, Admiral Varric could only whisper in horror. We're being hunted." General Kale stood frozen. His plans, his strategies, everything was useless. The Warborns anticipated every move. The communications officer's voice cracked with panic. "Sir, we've lost contact with the 5th and 7th fleets. They're gone." Admiral Varric's mechanical fingers twitched. "How?" "They appear out of nowhere. No warning, no signals. They're using stealth technology. We can't detect them." General Kale's voice was hollow. "They've been watching us. Learning. Adapting. And now, it was too late."